In the third lesson of object-oriented software engineering, we look at the system development. The system development is a gradual transformation of a sequence of models. The first model describes the customer's requirements, and the last step is fully tested program. In between the two endpoints are a number of other models. The descriptions present models of different degrees of detail. Early models are quite abstract, but later models are more detailed and describe how the system is built and how it functions. The aim is to divide the complicated development of a large system into a number of activities possible to be taken up by several designers at the same time. Each partial model is an abstraction of the system model. Each modeling step adds more structure to the system. So the whole project here is broken up into a number of parts where each part can be taken up in parallel by several designers at the same time. So when we look into the initial stages of the software, it is very abstract. But then when we look into the final stages of the software, it is very detailed because all the requirements are well understood, they are very properly placed, and so we end up coming into a more detailed environment. So to make transition between different models, it must be straightforward to seamlessly relate the model in one activity to the model of the following activity. So here a building block corresponds to a service package or part of a service package. Building blocks are highly application oriented or application related and form the basis for adaptations of the product for different customer categories. So here the system development department contains a special group of people who are responsible for development and coordination of general and application related components. The component developers provide essential support to product developers. So the output of the system development is a set of descriptions which include source code that can be interpreted by humans, compilers, diagrams and flowcharts, etc. These descriptions must be self-contained, which means they should be self-explanatory for reusability and are to be organized and documented in a framed manner. So when proper framing is achieved, rationality of software development and product exploitation can be attained. Service packages with relevant documentation can be assembled from appropriate descriptions. So here we have our system development in which we have three stages. The inputs to the system development are the requirements and the output is the system itself being developed. And during the process of system development, we do divide it into three different phases. One is analysis, the other one is construction, and the third one is testing. In construction, it is again divided into two parts, design and implementation. If the releases are in a controlled manner, it is not required to maintain multiple releases of the same document. Rather, it can be present in a single document also. So, system development consists of three distinct phases that allow each other, that is analysis, construction and testing. So coming to analysis, in analysis, an application-oriented specification is developed to specify what the system offers to its users. So it is a detailed description about what are the requirements of the users, what is the user trying to intend from this particular software, what are his requirements, what are his expectations. All of them put together, it comes in a single specification, and a specification which is robust against change in divided into clear, comprehensible and indivisible units is made for the analysis model. It specifies the functional behavior of the system, without regard to particular implementation environment. It is also important to judge whether the analysis model can actually be realized under given circumstances with respect to performance requirements and development costs. So here the analysis model will have to be realized under under all the circumstances or under the given circumstances when it counts on performance requirements and development costs. So coming to the construction phase, in this phase, the application-oriented analysis model will be realized with the aid of system software components, database management systems, and user interfaces. So these are the main components that we realize for a system software. That is, some components like library files, the programming languages, etc., the database management system, and also the user interfaces. So construction activities constitute design and implementation. Design activities formalize the analysis model in terms of implementation, environment, and specify the identified building blocks. Separate programs or blocks are identified in the design are then coded. So whatever way we try to model it, we create in terms of some separate blocks of code or some separate programs. So each of them is independent for its implementation. So this is how the construction will be done, and there are two different activities in construction, namely design and implementation. One thing is we need to select a particular architecture in designing the product, and also we need to select the methodology in which in the way we can implement that particular architecture. So finally coming to the testing. In testing, system is checked to make sure that all service packages in analysis model have been correctly implemented and the performance meets its requirements. Now here in testing, we look into what the specification says. Whether all the specifications given in the specification requirements document are being met or not. So here in testing phase, before we hand over the project into the customer's hands, we do test it to ensure that all the specifications have been rendered properly. Then testing takes place at several levels, from specific functions to the system as a whole. Now coming to the testing, there are different kinds of testings that are available. We call them as unit testing, integrated testing, system testing, smoke testing, regression testing. All these are the kind of different types of testing which are included to see that each of the individual components are working together, working properly well, as well as the system on the whole is working together well. So these are the things that we usually test before we hand it over to the end customer. So with this, we conclude the system development introduction.